Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for joining us. We begin with a deep dive into housing in Windsor. How is the city doing with its new builds? And are they the right kinds of builds to address the affordability crisis? CBC's Chris Ensing brings us the top story.
This 136-unit apartment building behind me is being built in Forest Glade. It's a prime example of the type of housing units that are getting built in Windsor and where they're going. Apartments have dominated the housing stock that's been started since 2022. And while some say that any type of housing unit built in Windsor will help bring down prices, others worry that if the right type of housing isn't getting built, then home ownership, a Canadian dream, might continue to slip away.
So you're the Ontario champs?
Premier Doug Ford says Windsor is the champion of getting homes built, doubling last year's annual housing target. The city plans to build 13,000 homes by 2031. So far, rental units and condos have been the key pieces in keeping that promise. There's been nearly 2,300 housing units started in the city since 2022. Nearly 3/4 of those are units in apartment buildings. Most of what's getting built is on the city's east end, with developments in Forest Glade leading the pack. These apartments behind me are an example of the explosion of building happening on the east end of the city. They're renting inside of this building a one-bedroom unit that's 600 square feet for about $2,000 a month. A two-bedroom, two-bath unit, double the size, goes for about $3,000 a month. That's between 30 and 50% of the average household income in Windsor, which means by definition, these units would be unaffordable for that household.
So you hear a lot about people who can afford a rental, but they're spending way more than 30% of their income on rent, sometimes up to 90% of their income on rent. And then in that situation, how are they ever going to be able to save a down payment?
Habitat for Humanity Windsor Essex sees the crunch and believes the new units being built might be missing the mark.
We've seen obviously the financialization of housing, the growth in the housing market has been good. We've seen a lot more builds happening lately, but we need to make sure that we're building for that missing middle. So we need to have some starter homes. And so we will be focusing on missing middle housing and middle income families who need a hand to get it into ownership.
New builds are more expensive than something already on the market that's similar, but you generally save on repairs and renovations. Now home builders warn the price gap between the two is widening, with existing homes on the market being 10 to 20% cheaper than a new build.
And when this price gap opens up and this market demand dries up on the new side, we're not replacing those units. We're not building enough right now, and that's what we see right now. We had great numbers announced the other day, but the current 2025 numbers aren't painting quite as rosy as a picture, and that's because the market demand is just not there on new.
As of the end of June, 212 housing units have been started in Windsor, a massive drop compared to last year this time. Builders say that can be blamed on tariffs and taxes.
That would be the lowest hanging fruit. If we can do something on that taxation front, lower those costs, that would at least bring that gap closer together, right? When you're talking $40,000 to $50,000 of HST on a new home, that's the big one.
Ford said he wants the Prime Minister to agree to axe HST on new home sales for 2 years, which builders say could spur development. As for the city, it says there's permits for 500 more housing units approved this year, but that doesn't guarantee that shovels will hit the ground. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
In other news, we are experiencing a bit of a cool down right now, but Windsor has been through its fair share of heat warnings this summer. And now advocates are calling on the province to act.
One teacher tracked his classroom temperature, 30 degrees for more than 24 hours, rising to 32 before the class had to leave. Science is clear. Extreme heat stresses our bodies. And children are especially vulnerable. They overheat faster, they cool down slower and risk headaches, dizziness, nausea, even vomiting.
Members from the Heat Collaborative speaking at Queen's Park today. They are calling on the province to provide more funding to regulate heat in classrooms and for new legislation to keep rental units below 26 degrees. And with that, we bring in Colette Kennedy for our first look at weather. And Colette, many of us are so relieved to see and feel that dip in temperatures today, since yesterday, actually.
Yeah, that's right. That cooler feel almost has a little bit of a bite of fall in it, as we've got that cooler air that's pushed in and a frontal boundary that's moving towards us as well that could bring a little bit of rainfall to the region. So there you can see all the lightning strikes as it's pushing across Lake Michigan. It's still got a ways to go. We'll be dry into the evening hours. You know, we had a low last night of 15 degrees, so it was a cooler start this morning, up to 23 today, and then we'll have that coming down, patchy fog overnight, a low of 17, and then tomorrow with that chance of showers, maybe an embedded thunderstorm, the temperature will be warming up again, and that's going to be somewhat the trend down towards the end of the week.
Okay, thank you so much, Colette. In national news, Air Canada flights are still grounded with flight attendants on the picket lines defying back-to-work orders. Their union says it supports them.
If it means folks like me going to jail, then so be it. If it means our union being fined, then so be it.
We are in a situation where literally hundreds of thousands of Canadians and visitors to our country are being disrupted by this action. I urge both parties to resolve this as quickly as possible.
The tribunal that handles employment complaints in federally regulated workplaces says defiance of the back-to-work order is unlawful, but it's not clear what authorities plan to do about it. About 10,000 flight attendants walked off the job Saturday, taking issue with wages, work rules, and unpaid hours. And Air Canada says that some 500,000 customers' flights have been canceled as a result of the work stoppage, which means many travelers are struggling to get to where they need to go. Jayla Bernstein has their stories.
With hundreds of flights canceled and hundreds of thousands of travelers affected, frustration with Air Canada is boiling over.
They weren't able to find any flights on over 160 different carriers.
It's a lot for people that can't just fork over the money.
Air Canada's ticket refunds don't come close to covering the true cost, says this traveler.
All of us are out a lot of money with cancellations of hotels, ferries, rent-a-cars, nights in hotels before we were supposed to get to the Airbnb. Who reimburses you for all the rest of the money? And then also who reimburses you for the heartache?
Months of planning went into their trip to Athens, but the strike means several family members had to back out.
It doesn't feel like we are valued. There has been very, very poor communication from them.
Stephen Phillips' flight home to Montreal was supposed to leave Monday.
The service for passengers has been disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
He's in England for a funeral. He says rebooking with another airline would cost about $15,000 for a one-way ticket.
I would never in my life fly Air Canada ever again. I would rather pay more money and fly with a competitor. It's disgusting.
But that's not always an option.
It's a well-known Canadian thing to say, I'm never flying Air Canada again. But it always has to come with the asterisk. There is no choice. This is why the Competition Bureau has advocated for allowing more foreign competition in our domestic routes.
The Public Interest Advocacy Centre says a strike is not considered within an airline's control, meaning that Air Canada is not on the hook to pay for extra costs around cancelled flights, while in Europe, consumer protections are stronger, something advocates hope will be up for discussion when Parliament resumes this fall. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
Less than a week after the Ford government announced all public servants will be required to return to the office full-time in the new year, the Premier is urging municipalities to do the same. Arthur White-Crummey has more from Ottawa.
Premier Doug Ford spoke to a packed room of municipal leaders. It's the first day of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario annual convention. Ford said cities can do more to energize the economy. They can buy local, they can reduce charges on new homes, and they can follow the province's example on sending workers back to the office.
Last week, our government also announced that Ontario Public Service will be returning to the office 5 days a week. This decision reflects what we're seeing in business across the province.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown has already done it.
I want to thank Mayor Brown for his leadership and encourage other municipalities to follow his lead. It will help bring the public service in the municipalities closer to the people they serve and will revitalize our workplaces and downtowns across Ontario.
City Councillor Tim Tierney says Ottawa has already been heading in that direction. More than 85% of city staff are already on site in the workplace every day.
I think this is part of the change that we're seeing in general, and certainly I think we would love to see more people that have the opportunity, that are required to work in person, back to work, but we'll see between Mayor and Council if the opportunity exists to say, yes, we'd like everyone to come back to work.
The Premier also asked municipalities to cut development charges. That's a fee on new homes, meant to help fund roads, water, and other infrastructure. Councillor Alan Hubley says cities have to do their part on affordability.
I think that's a good message. We should, all levels of government should be looking at how can we trim costs so that housing can be affordable, and not just housing, but the cost of living.
But cities will need funding to plug the gap, and the Premier is offering more, adding $1.6 billion to a municipal housing infrastructure fund.
We need affordable housing, and to be able to create that opportunity for whether it's our own community providers or charters to be able to come in and build that housing, you need to be able to have all those connections and things that go along with it, and it also requires money. So devil's in the details, but I feel this is a very positive step when it comes to the housing front.
The province has been falling behind on housing starts. Canada as a whole has seen a slight uptick in new construction, but Ontario has seen a decrease of 28% over the past year. Housing will be back on the convention agenda tomorrow, so will mental health and addictions. Arthur White-Crummey, CBC News, Ottawa.
Marit Stiles says finishing second in the last provincial election isn't good enough. And the Ontario NDP leader isn't taking anything for granted ahead of a leadership review at next month's party convention. Queen's Park reporter Sean Jeffords has the story.
Mine too. This summer, I've been crisscrossing the province from small towns to big cities, meeting with workers, families, and communities, meeting with you to chart a better path forward.
An upbeat Marit Stiles talking about her summer tour of Ontario. It comes as the New Democrats take stock of their disappointing finish in the snap election earlier this year. And ahead of a mandatory leadership review Stiles will face at an NDP convention in September. Briefly off the road and at home in her Toronto riding, she's candid about the party's performance.
No question, coming second is I consider that a failure. I want us to be able to deliver the results that Ontarians need. And I think right now, Ontarians can't afford a government like Doug Ford's.
Ford cruised to his third straight majority government in February. The NDP came second in seat count, holding on to 27 seats, down 4 from the previous vote in 2022. But the New Democrats finished third in popular support with 18%. Stiles says the party faced tough choices during the election.
You've got the Conservatives and Doug Ford targeting NDP incumbents. I mean, they were very explicit about the fact that they wanted to knock off a number of our strong MPPs, people who've been, frankly, the ones who've been holding them to account all the time.
And Stiles has faced internal turmoil since being acclaimed as party leader 2 years ago. She kicked Sarah Jama out of the party caucus in October 2023. That following an uproar over comments the former Hamilton MPP made in support of Palestinians after the Hamas-led attacks on Israel. Jama was subsequently barred from running for the NDP. Some party members called for a review of Stiles' leadership at that time. Stiles says she's unaware of any push to oust her at the convention.
I mean, I'm not hearing it, and certainly I never take anything for granted.
She isn't the only leader who faces a review next month. Some within the Ontario Liberal Party have called for leader Bonnie Crombie to be unseated at a September meeting. This NDP strategist doesn't think Stiles faces that kind of challenge.
Look, am I satisfied not winning? Absolutely not. And more New Democrats have come to the realization that you need to win to radically change policy.
This expert says the NDP leader has the daunting task of rebuilding the party.
She has to find a way of getting NDP activists to go and organize in places where the going is really hard.
Delegates at the NDP convention hold Stiles' future in their hands. A simple majority vote would trigger a new leadership race. That would have to be held within a year. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
A live look outside as we enjoy some relief from that oppressive heat that we've been experiencing lately. Stay with us. After the break, we will have international news for you. Welcome back. In international news, Donald Trump met with Volodymyr Zelensky and other European leaders in Washington on Monday. Trump says the United States could be involved in providing security guarantees for Ukraine as part of any peace deal with Russia. He also said a ceasefire is not needed to bring an end to the war, which started in early 2022. Ashley Burke has more.
A warmer White House welcome. Ukraine's president doing everything he can to ensure these talks with Donald Trump about ending the war don't go off the rails. Volodymyr Zelensky wearing a suit instead of military attire, bringing some of the most powerful European leaders with him and striking a thankful tone after a disastrous meeting at the White House in February where he was publicly berated. These critical talks happening after Russia's latest attack.
We live under each day attacks, that today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia.
I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
Trump said Zelensky has to seize Crimea and agree to never join NATO in return for U.S. security guarantees, but didn't give details.
There'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
The leaders of the UK, Germany, Italy, France, Finland, the European Union, and NATO all at the White House, showing a united front and backing up Ukraine.
To be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that.
We're going to let the president go over and talk to the president, and we'll see how that works out. And if we can do that, I will say, and again, I say it, in the 6 wars that I've settled, I haven't had a ceasefire.
Trump went into his meeting with Russia's president on Friday saying his focus was on getting Putin to agree to a ceasefire, but he left without that agreement, and today repeatedly suggested that it's no longer a priority, and he thinks he can end the war without it. Trump says he'll be calling Putin to share what happened today and wants to set up a trilateral meeting with Putin and Zelensky next. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Washington.
The first hurricane of the season continues to churn its way north across the Atlantic. Hurricane Erin has already wreaked havoc in parts of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. After losing some intensity on the weekend, Erin strengthened back into a Category 4 storm. It then churned just east of the Bahamas. Forecasters say it will turn northeast away from the eastern United States, but it could bring tropical force winds to North Carolina's Outer Banks. And Spain has dispatched about 500 more troops to help fight wildfires raging across the country. That brings the total number of troops to just under 2,000. So far, 4 people have died as a result of the fires, including 1 firefighter. About 20 major wildfires are now burning in Spain due to a scorching heat wave. This year alone, about 3,430 square kilometers have burned there. That is almost double the amount from last year. Fires are now burning in many countries across southern Europe. And meanwhile, flash floods have killed more than 300 people in northwestern Pakistan. Heavy rain forced the suspension of rescue and relief work for several hours. Residents fled to higher ground after a water channel flooded. More than 150 millimeters of rain fell within an hour in a small area. Heavy rain is expected across Pakistan until early September. And now, before break, on a lighter note, fans of Downton Abbey now have a chance to own items used in the British historical drama. This exhibition in London is a preview of the online auction. Visitors can see several costumes and props used in the Emmy Award-winning TV show. Wedding and party dresses and other well-known items from the fictional world will go under the hammer. But the most expensive of them will be the Crawley family car, a real 1925 vehicle that works. Stay with us. We will be right back after the break with Colette Kennedy. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more on weather. And Colette, before we get to the local stuff, let's talk about Hurricane Erin because it's actually going to have an impact on us. So tell us about that.
Yeah, there is a tie-in at least here in terms of what we are looking at. So I know we were just talking about it a little bit earlier in the show, but the same system that's going to be bringing us rain showers tomorrow, it's what's likely going to hold Hurricane Erin from making any kind of a landfall along the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and in fact kind of push it away from Atlantic Canada as well, because that frontal boundary is going to come out and kind of shoo it away. Now, as we extend this through time, in terms of Atlantic Canada, that wouldn't be till about Saturday there'd be an impact. This could still shift. That's a long way off, right? So we'll see what happens there. But it looks like it would be some high waves for sure, high surf, and also some beach erosion, certainly in rip currents along the eastern seaboard. We'd like to pick up just some outer bands of rain there in Atlantic Canada, but right now that path not really looking like it would give us that. So that front that's coming through, I guess we can consider it in some ways a good thing. Also, if it brings some rain showers into so many areas that are so dry, that would be helpful as well. Current temperature at 23. I got to show you the humidex. There's not much there, but there is some humidity, feeling like 28 in the Windsor area. And our sustained winds in many cases kind of coming in off the lake, no matter what direction it is, giving a cooler feel, especially anyone closer to any of our lake shores. And there's the system as it's riding through. A lot of lightning strikes across Lake Michigan. But as it reaches us, it's going to be more towards the overnight hours. So some things will be weakening here. This kind of pushes in early morning. We're getting some light development into the afternoon with some sun trying to peek through the clouds and a bit more energy. We could have a few afternoon or early evening showers or thunderstorms in there, and then maybe just an isolated shower Wednesday morning. But if anything, we're actually going to be clearing out as we head into Wednesday and getting back into some sunshine. So what could we see from this? Well, the models have been a little bit all over the place, perhaps giving more along the north shore of Lake Erie, but on the east end. So we'll put it more around that 10 millimeter range for southwestern Ontario. Overnight tonight, 17 for that low, 27 the high for tomorrow. Wednesday, that shower would be early, so then we get into that clearing. And yeah, you're probably noticing here that the trend is, we're kind of closer to seasonal now, but that trend is that temperatures will be climbing and getting warm and above seasonal again.
Well, until then, I'm going to enjoy these lows overnight so we can open up some windows.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Colette. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.